Hi everybody. Oh, holy cow! Long day at work. So don't mind me. I One of the things that I'd like to talk about today specifically, now that I'm holding white wine, is the differences and major differences specifically between dry and off-dry, sweet, semi-sweet, all those sorts of things as far as wine. One of the things you're looking for, and one of the things that really confuses me, or at least me personally, when I'm talking about wine to either people I'm working with or people in the program, or in my program at school, sorry, or just people in general, is they always say they like dry wine. And I think that's kind of like people thinking they like dry martinis. If the beverage isn't in balance, then it's not going to taste good. The dry wines can be absolutely far too acidic sometimes. The reference of dry for wine, at least, is the level of sugar left over after fermentation. This is a dry white wine. Oh, and it's good. Dry wines specifically have no or very minimal amounts of residual sugar left over in them. The off-dry wines have a little bit of residual sugar left over. Your residual sugar being the sugars that are left over after fermentation has been stopped or completed. Dry wines, the fermentation goes to completion. Off-dry wines, they arrest the fermentation by sending in SO2, a sulfite, to prevent yeast multiplication and to prevent the yeast from moving forward. Then semi-sweet is a little bit sweeter, and then you've got your sweet wines. Those are things like ice wine and, well, ice wine. Something that's got so much sugar on it, it may as well be candy. The key to making sure that you've got a wine that is palatable as far as a table wine goes, but has residual sugar left over, is to balance it with the acids. A dry wine can be very, very tart. You've seen dry Sauvignon Blancs that taste like grapefruit, and just so much of that citrus flavor is coming from the acidity that you're not really getting much else. That one doesn't have that problem. It's really good. Like I said earlier, long day at work. The other, and I can't even watch the football game. The other things that you're looking at as far as the level of acidity is you want to be able to make sure that it's the right kind of acidity. The major acids in grapes are tartaric acid, malic acid, and that's pretty much it. There's a little bit of citric, succinic, formic, a bunch of other acids. Some of those come around by just the byproducts of fermentation. One of the acids you do not want is acetic acid, obviously the main component in vinegar, but acetic acid it's considered a volatile acid. It's really pungent. You can always tell when it's kind of gone off. You just smell a wine and you're like, oh, that's vinegar. That is not good. We have gone too far. The acidity levels for acetic acid can come about as byproducts of microbial infections. That's why other sulfites are added as well, just to prevent those sorts of things from occurring during either the fermentation process or during stabilization, during barrel aging, during resting before bottling, for example, my work just brought in Pinot Gris. We had to add a nitrogen layer on top of the wine to make sure it doesn't, on top of the juice, because we haven't even started fermentation yet, on top of the juice to prevent any oxidative characteristics. If you oxidize too much, you're going to start to see things turn into off flavors. You're going to start to see sugars just instantly reduce themselves, and you're going to start to see a little bit of those reduced sugars turn into volatile acids such as acetic acid. And then the juice just becomes unusable because once you've gone that far, you can't really go back without very, very intricate organic chemical reactions, and by that point in time, you've probably added a carcinogen or two, and that's just unhappy. And nobody does that because, let's face it, good luck getting that past the liquor board, especially in Ontario. So that's the major things I really wanted to talk about today. I guess one of the other things that we could also just kind of talk about is how tasty this wine is. And I was talking about potentially doing this at the end of the month to kind of just tie together a theme, but I want to have a glass of wine, so I'll discuss tasting. Tasting specifically, if you want to do it in kind of that in a method that evaluates wine, you can do it we can just go over the major steps. First step, you just instantly want to take a look at the wine, make sure that it's clear. If the wine isn't clear, it's kind of hazy, and there's a difference between sediment and haze. Haze kind of gives it a opaque color. Not to say that wine can't be so deep in color that you can't see through it. Opaque is you will never see through it. It could be this clear white, and on the other side you will see nothing. That is not because of condensation, because it's chilled. Because the wine itself is so hazy that you can't see through it. That's a bit more of microbial infection, sometimes protein suspension. Protein suspension is never really a bad thing. Unfiltered wines sometimes have a little bit of haze to it, but it's kind of difficult to convince customers and consumers that that isn't microbial infection, so most people filter out their wines and remove those proteins so that you don't have that kind of haze. Next thing you want to do is, instead of everybody instantly jumps to just swirling the wine so that they can kind of have the experience of it's swirling, flavors abound. No, the first thing you want to do is you want to take a quick sniff, and that quick sniff is to look for anything instantly wrong with it, like if the volatile acidity that I mentioned earlier. If I took a quick sniff and knew that it was vinegar, smelled vinegar, it's instantly going to be off. So you're just like, well, clearly something went wrong, and that's not good. Other things that you can tell by that quick sniff are oxidation. Sometimes that's necessary if you're having a style of sherry. Oxidation is kind of part of how they get that flavor profile and what makes that wine style that thing. So knowing that, say you're sampling a sherry, you take that quick sniff and there is no oxidative smell, that's not necessarily going to be good for that style of wine. From there, we get to the fun part, the swirl. And we swirl the wine to allow surface area. The amount of surface area that comes into contact between the different phases, liquid and gaseous, like the air, you will start to see a lot more of those aromatic compounds being released by the wine into the atmosphere and allowing you to perceive them. So after swirling, you take a couple of quick sniffs. I prefer to do quick sniffs because if I do really drawn out ones, I oversaturate my sense of smell, also known as the olfactory sense. I saturate it and I won't be able to discern some of the finer things. So this one specifically, Sauvignon Blanc from the Niagara Peninsula. I don't really want to actually say what it is, and there's another reason I actually changed my shirt after work, is because I don't really want to put a whole lot of product placement out there. If you decide you really want to find out what I drink, I'll let you know. It's all good. And the first couple of things that I get off of this are things like grapefruit, gooseberry. It's a Sauvignon Blanc. It's going to have those aromatic characters to it. A little bit of that asparagus flavor that a lot of people tend to really like about this grape variety. Make it perfect for pairing with those dishes, like a light white fish, some asparagus, a little bit of citrus juice, and then you bingo, bango, bongo, Sauvignon Blanc. Perfect pairing. But after the sniffing, after the sense of smell gets to look after the wine, what you do is you get to do the fun part and drink it. You'll notice I did all those really, really snobby things. It's fun, first of all. Second, by working the wine around your mouth, you're going to find that it touches a lot more on the other parts of your palate. You're going to find that sense of tastes. You're going to get that bitter taste at the back of your throat from the ethanol in the wine. You're going to get that side of your tongue really starting to add to the saliva. That's kind of what's making it a bit hard to talk at the moment because of the acidity. You're going to see a little bit of sweetness for some of the wines, especially things like off-dry Rieslings, depending on the style of red. I've seen some sweet reds, and they're not bad. As long as it's in balance, wine is good. But you're going to see it all over your mouth, and with red wine, you're going to start to get tannin, and I'll discuss reds next week. That'll probably be a good place to go. But with that, you're starting to get all those other things. And then you heard that kind of slurping sound. I'm sorry, Mom. I am very, very, very impolite when I taste wine, and it happens because, let's face it, the slurping sound does the exact same thing the swirling does. It adds oxygen. It pulls out those flavor compounds, increases the surface area, and allows for you to perceive those flavors retronasally, pulling them up the back of the nasal cavity into the olfactory bulb again, hitting different senses, or at least sensors in your olfactory bulb that allow for you to perceive different flavors. And one of the things I like to do personally when I'm tasting wine is to you breathe in through your mouth and out through your nose. That allows you to capture a bit more of that retronasal character. That's kind of the quick rundown. That's a little bit of just wine 102? 100 was yesterday. We'll say wine 101. It really doesn't matter. I'm trying to do everything I can to just kind of get a bit more information out there for people. So here's one for you. I think that's pretty much going to be the end of the video for the day because I got to go try and find a way to watch the football game. And I might need to get some chicken wings and beer. Just options. But you have yourself a great day. Cheers, and enjoy wine.